Welcome to my short yoga sequence all about hamstrings, and in particular tight hamstrings. So for this practice today you're going to need a belt. If you don't have a yoga belt, that doesn't matter, just any old normal leather type belt that you'd have in your wardrobe will do just fine, or even a pair of tights. So without further ado, we're going to begin. The first pose is called reclining hand to big toe pose. So you're going to lie down on your mat. Just before we do any stretches, we're just going to place the hands on the belly and take 3 nice deep breaths just to center ourselves. So as you inhale, feel your belly rise up, inhaling through the nose. And as you exhale, let the belly sink back down. And again, inhale. And exhale. And one more time. Okay, from here you can bend your left knee in towards your chest and just draw the knee towards the chest for the moment. And then take your belt, whatever belt you have, and wrap it around just above the arch of your left foot. So kind of coming between the arch and the ball of the foot, and begin to straighten that leg. So take it nice and easy to begin. And at the same time, we're going to straighten out that right leg. Or if this is too uncomfortable, you can keep that right leg bent. So work on straightening the leg or getting it as close to straight as possible, but keep the shoulders relaxed on the floor, keep your head relaxed on the floor. And if the head isn't comfortable on the floor, you could always place a pillow underneath it. Begin to flex your toes now, pointing them down towards yourself. Actually flex your toes on both feet and really start to feel into the backs of the legs. And then really draw that left knee up towards your left quads and start to feel that left hip bone really moving down into the socket. And if there's any room to move any deeper into the pose, you can start to draw that left foot towards you a little bit, lengthening out a little bit more. So this is really going to warm up and begin to lengthen those hamstrings. So continue to push the back of your right knee into the mat and keep that leg nice and straight. Take a couple of more deep breaths here. Notice what happens in the hamstrings as you really tune into your breath, as you really use your breath to help you in the pose. So you're not trying to force here. We never force the hamstrings, we encourage them. Encourage them to lengthen in a gentle way. They do not respond well to being forced. Go for one more breath on this side. And then begin to very gently release, drawing the knee into the chest again so you can release the strap, placing it to one side. Bring your hands onto the outside of your left knee and just gently draw it in towards your chest for one breath. And then release that left foot to the floor, bend the right knee in, draw towards your chest, release the left leg out. Take one more breath here. And now we're going to get our strap again, bring it onto the right foot. You might need to lean up to get the right position, and bring your head back down and start to straighten your leg. Start to push that left knee, the back of the left knee, towards the mat. Or as I mentioned, if it's too much, keep that left foot on the floor like this. So you may notice if you have any imbalances in your hamstrings, it'll become quite apparent in this pose. Like I can feel that my right hamstrings are a little bit tighter than the left. Just tune in and focus on that breath. Again, remembering not to force it. If you find your elbows are bent, you can start walking your hands up a little bit higher on your strap. You can start gently encouraging your foot over your head in that direction, if there's any space to move any further. And we're just going to try and maintain this stretch for another about 3 breaths. And then gently release. Okay, so we've warmed up those hamstrings nicely now, so we can move on to some of the rest of the poses. So you can just cross at the ankles and roll yourself up to a seated position. Okay, so we're going to come over now and move into a downward dog, warming up the rest of the body. So the wrists are under your shoulders, shoulder distance apart. Your hands are spread out, your toes tucked under. And then you're going to lift up, keeping the knees bent at first. Focus on getting really long body, long spine. Really press those hands into the mat, especially the thumb and first finger. Drop the head so the chin comes more towards the chest. Feel those lower abdominal muscles drawing in a little and hug in your lower ribs. Melt your heart towards the floor while maintaining good alignment in your shoulders. Breathe here. And start to pedal out the legs. So here now we're warming up into the backs of the legs, with the focus maybe a little bit more on the calves and the Achilles tendons, but it's important to warm them up too for the stretches that we're going to go on to. But you will feel this in the hamstrings as well. You will feel the benefits in the hamstrings. Now drop both heels towards the mat for 2 breaths. So you should be engaging through the fronts of the legs as you stretch out the back. So feel those kneecaps lift up into the thighs. Feel the thigh muscles engage. Now we're going to look forward and step the right foot between the hands. And then straight away drop the left knee to the floor for a lunge pose here. So make sure that your right knee is over your right ankle. You don't want the ankle to be behind the knee. And then you can drop your hips forward. So we're getting a nice stretch here into the hip flexors. Bring both sets of fingertips onto the mat. Lift the chest. And just energetically radiate out from your heart center. Look forward and breathe here. Now you're going to exhale and release back, release your hips back. Come up and just really wiggle that right heel forward a little bit. You'll need to move that forward a little bit to come into this deep hamstring stretch. So you could have your hands up on your hips if it was too much to bring them to the floor. It's obviously easier to balance when the fingertips are on the floor, but it's a little bit more intense. So here again, you want to really engage through those quads. So lift the kneecap. The leg doesn't have to be completely straight, but you do have to engage here to protect the knee joint. Keep those toes lifting up and flexing. And this is really deep. It's called intense forward stretch. So it's a really deep stretch into your hamstring. So if you need to have more bend in the knee, that's absolutely fine. You need to be able to focus on the breath and breathe smoothly. Two more. Now just drag that right heel back a little bit and come onto your right foot. Bring your fingers forward and step back to your downward dog position. And just take a couple of rounds of pedaling out the legs here. Really keeping those arms nice and strong. Keep dropping your head. looking through your legs. 2 more breaths. Now look forward and start to move your left foot between the hands. And once you're there, bring your right knee to the floor. Look forward, radiate out from the heart center, lifting the chest, dropping the hips forward as far as feels comfortable. Now, if that's too much, you can just come back up a little bit more with the hips. You don't have to drop all the way forward. Breathe. Especially if you're having lower back ache, which can often be a symptom of short hamstrings. You might find it's uncomfortable to dip too deeply into the hips here. Last breath here now. Now coming back up with the hips, slide that left heel forward a little bit and then move into your intense forward stretch for the hamstrings. As I said, you could have your hands up, you could have your hands on a wall if there's a wall nearby. You can have your fingertips on the floor. Engage through the front of that left leg. Nice and strong. Breathe. And then just drag that left heel back a little bit, come onto the left foot, and again step back into your downward dog. Now look forward and just start to come up onto your tippy toes and start to walk those feet forward, bending the knees as much as you need to until your feet are up where your hands are. So I'm just going to move back so you can see me. Your feet are about hip distance apart, and you're going to keep the bend in the knees and let the belly rest onto the thighs. So we don't want to be rounding in the back here. So if the hamstrings are tight, there's going to be more of an urge to round in the back. So you really need to bend the knees if that's you, so that you can hinge from your hips here instead of rounding. You want that nice long spine here, and so your upper body can just release. If your hands come to the floor, you can wrap your first 2 fingers around your big toes with the thumbs on top of the big toes, and then press those fingers down onto the toes. And then, and only then, if there's room to straighten the legs, you start to feel those sit bones rising up towards the ceiling and that bit of length coming into the backs of the legs, but not if it means you start to round your lower back. So if that's you, keep that deeper bend in the knees. It really doesn't matter as long as you're feeling the stretch on the hamstrings and your back is in good alignment. Drop your head completely, even swing it left to right. Yes, no, so that you know you're completely letting go. And then look forward. Bring your arms out to the sides, or if you don't have space, you can just have them on your elbows like this. And then lift your head and come all the way up. The nice long spine. Bringing the arms all the way over your head. And then exhaling your hands to your heart. Mountain pose, Tadasana. So from here, we're going to move into another intense stretch for the hamstrings. So start near the top of your mat. And you're going to you leave your right foot where it is and just step back. So it is literally just a step back like this. Step back with your right foot, not too wide. And then you're going to place your hands on your hips and square your hips, just meaning turning your hips towards the front of the mat. So you're really grounding through that right big toe, lifting through the arch, engaging the leg muscles, and you've got those hips squared, shoulders back. Inhale. And then as you exhale, you're hinging from your hips again. So again, this is really important. And if you've got very tight hamstrings, you're going to really want to either round the back or bend the knee. If it's one or the other, bend the knee. And keep folding, keep folding, keep folding as far as you can fold while keeping a nice long spine. Keep pressing back into that left heel, so really grounding through the left foot as well. So at a certain point, you're going to start to really feel that intense stretch in the right hamstring. That's what you're looking for. There's no need for you to go any further. You can keep your hands on your hips, or if you really want to, you can bring your hands onto your shin, and you can start to just let the head drop down a little bit more. And if you're feeling quite comfortable in this pose, you could bring your fingertips forward onto the mat and then drop the nose towards the knee. Whichever version you're in now, take about 3 breaths. Keep those hips squared. We're going to come up now with a nice long spine. So inhale, look forward, walk the hands back a little bit. Exhale, bring your hands onto your hips. And then inhale as you hinge from your hips to come up. And we're going to turn to the other side. Literally just swivel to the other side of the mat to do the other side. So you might need to readjust your foot position a little bit. Spread out your toes. Square your hips towards the back of your mat now. Inhale. And as you exhale, hinge from your hips, folding out over that left foot now. This could be far enough. You can keep the hands on the hips and the elbows back, shoulders back. You could bring your hands to your shin and fold your upper back a little bit more into the pose. Or you could bring your fingertips to the mat and allow your nose to come towards your knee. If you really need to, remember you can bend that left knee a little bit more. Keep grounding through your right heel. Now inhale, look up. Walking the fingertips back a little bit. Exhale, bring the hands onto the hips if you're not already there. And we'll all inhale to come up. Okay, you're going to turn to the other side again, to the first side. So we're going to point that right foot at a 90-degree angle. This time we're going to step that left foot back for a wider stance, for extended Trikonasana, triangle pose. Inhale, bring your arms up. Take a nice deep breath here now. Really draw an energy all the way up through your body from the earth and out through your fingertips. And then as you exhale, hinging from the hips. So bump those hips back in the opposite direction as you lean your right fingers all the way forward as much as you can get them. And then windmill, bringing that right hand down. A couple of different places it can go. You can rest on the leg. If you can bring your fingertips to the floor. And if you can go even further, you can bring your fingertips behind your leg. Now open up through the upper body. So chest facing the side wall and reach up through those left fingertips. Draw the head and chin back a little bit and extend through the heart space here. Now back leg stays really strong. Deep hamstring stretch going on in this pose. A lot of other things going on in it too, but today we're focused on that deep hamstring stretch. For one more breath. Now we really need to use the core muscles here as we come up, so really engage those core muscles as you inhale, lifting all the way up. Exhale, bring your hands to your hips and then turn your feet to the opposite side for the other side. Nice straight legs again. Inhale. Exhale. Bumping those hips in the opposite direction, reaching forward, 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 and windmill to whichever version. Hand on the leg, fingertips to the floor or fingertips behind, and then reaching up through that other arm. So the right arm in this case. You can just stay looking straight ahead. I forgot to mention that on the other side. You can look up at your fingertips. Whatever you prefer. I prefer to just look straight ahead. It really doesn't matter. If it feels good to look up, look up. Now, keeping that nice core strength as you come up, inhale. And exhale, hands to the hips. So turn your left foot in now, so that both feet are turned a little bit in, so the big toes slightly turning in. The outsides of your feet are parallel with the edge, the short edge of your mat. And I'm going to go a little bit wider here in my stance, but you'll know yourself as soon as you start coming into the pose what feels right for you. Bring your hands to your hips now. Inhale. And as you exhale, you're going to begin to bend again, hinging from the hips. Really important here, these front hip creases. You may need to bend the knees in order to make this happen. So bend the knees if you need, and then fold, fold, fold until your upper body and your spine is parallel to the floor, so halfway. And then inhale, feel your spine lengthen in two directions. Lengthen through the crown of your head, lengthen through your tailbone. Keep the legs strong, even if they're bent, keep them strong. And then exhale to fold fully down, bringing the upper body down, wide-legged forward bend. Bring your hands to the floor. If they don't comfortably come to the floor, bring them onto your shins. Either way, drop your head and look through your legs here. So deep stretch here in the inner thighs and the hamstrings. And really good stretch for the muscles of the bum as well, which they're all obviously very well connected, and if one's tight, usually the others are tight as well. So the elbows bend. If there's a bend in the elbows, they bend backwards, keeping the elbows over the wrists and in line with the shoulders. One more breath. Now, as we start to come back up, inhale, look up, bring your hands forward, come up onto your fingertips. And you can even scoot your feet in a little bit closer together to make it easier. Bring your hands onto your hips, and then inhale the rest of the way up. And just heel toe your feet in to come out. Okay, so if you need to shake those legs out a little bit too. I'm just going to move my mic here, don't mind me. Okay. So we're going to come down onto the floor now, and we're going to stretch it out a little bit more. We're going to come into Supta Baddha Konasana, or just Baddha Konasana, I should say, cobbler's pose or butterfly pose. So bring the soles of your feet together. Actually, before you do that, either sit up on a cushion. I'm just going to grab something, or a blanket if you have one, or if you're quite flexible already, you don't even have to sit up on anything, but just move the flesh of the bum back a little bit and really root down through your sit bone. So it can be really nice to put the pillow or the cushion kind of at the back part of your bum behind your sit bones, and that gives you that nice bit of lift and opening in the hips. So bringing your hands then either onto your feet, or you could bring them around your feet if you liked, or around your toes. There's a few different versions, whatever works for you. Bring your feet as close to your groin as you feel comfortable going. Just sit up nice and tall. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Let those knees and legs become really heavy. You want to be really careful that you're not slouching down like this and just letting everything go, which, if you've got short hamstrings, your lower back is being pulled in that direction, so we've got to really work against that. So sit up, soften those shoulders, lift through the chest. This might be enough for you today, or you could bend your, hinge from your hips again and bend your elbows. Come all the way forward, or as forward as you feel comfortable going, and then just maybe drop your gaze down towards your feet. So we're getting into the hips here, opening up, stretching deeply into the hips, into the inner thighs, hamstrings, and buttocks. If you find it very uncomfortable, or your lower back hurts doing this pose, try doing it up against a wall. next inhale, lift your head back up and gently release your legs out in front. Okay. So this next pose is called Half Lord of the Fishes, and it's a twist, but it gives a really nice stretch all around the hamstrings and the sides of the hips as well. So take your right foot, bend it up and cross it over. And then there's two options here. You can leave that left leg extended, or if you feel you have a little bit more flexibility to play with, you can bend that left knee back, coming onto the top of the left foot here. Now you don't want that heel right in under your bum. You want to be able to encourage your bum and your sit bone to rest down. So it might be up a little bit off the floor, but you want to really encourage it down. If it's just too much, straighten that leg out again, that left leg. Bring your left hand onto your right knee, and then with your right arm, just bring it up, just to really open up the shoulder here and draw it back. Place the fingertips behind your spine here on the floor. Inhale again, sit up nice and tall, and exhale to turn to the right. You may need to adjust the position of your hand behind you as you turn, spiraling your spine here in this pose. You're gently drawing your right knee over to the left side. You could wrap your elbow around your knee if that felt nicer. And then we're going to release on the next exhale. Okay, so you can release that left leg underneath and then release the right top leg. Going to the other side, then bend up your left leg, cross it over the right. Decide whether you're leaving that right leg extended or bending the knee back. And remember, let that left buttock just kind of rest down, so you don't want the heel in the way too much here. Inhale, sit up nice and tall. Leave that right hand on the left knee. Bring the left arm all the way behind, so reach up to open up. I'm a bit short of space here, but if you have the space, really stretch the arm back and bring your fingertips to the floor. Inhale, lengthen again, and exhale to turn. I prefer to just leave the hand on the knee here, but if you feel like you want to wrap your arm all the way around, if that works for you, go for it. And one more lovely breath here. And exhale back. Okay, so we're nearly finished now. We're just going to finish with a supine, a lying down pigeon pose. So it's similar, as you might guess from the name, it's very similar to pigeon pose, but it's done in a lying down position. So there's a couple of different names from it for. Sometimes people call it thread the needle as well. Okay, so we're going to bend the legs, and you can start by bringing your right foot up and resting it on your left thigh like this. So you want to keep this right foot angled as if you were like standing, so not kind of just floppy like this, but angled like this. And then reach your hands through, so your right hand comes through the middle here and your left hand comes to the outside of your left leg. Now you'll probably have to lift up for this bit, or you can bring your knee in, but you might still have to lift up and clasp your hands behind your leg. Or you could go, it's a little bit deeper if you go behind onto the shin. And then rest your head back down if you lifted it up. And just keep gently drawing the left knee towards you, and at the same time encouraging your right knee away from you. If your right elbow is in the right position, you might be able to use that right elbow to gently encourage the right knee away from you. You could also try it with the legs straight up, see how that feels. I quite like that. I also quite like bringing my hands onto the left shin. I kind of feel that gets a bit deeper into my right hip. Go for 2 more breaths. And then we're going to release the hands and then release the left foot onto the floor. And finally release the right foot onto the floor. Okay, so just getting ready then for the other side. You're going to bend your left knee up and bring your left foot to rest on the right thigh. And then you can lift your right knee and leg off the floor so that you can bring your hands and clasp them behind your right thigh. Or, as I mentioned, you could try the leg up or reach the hands in front of your shin. Whichever version you're at now, just hold and breathe. Don't forget to keep that left foot flexed. So a little bit of activeness through the foot. And release your hands and release your right foot to the floor and release your left foot to the floor. Okay, so that's the end of our practice for tight hamstrings. So please feel free to come back and do this practice on a daily basis until you see some improvement. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave some feedback in the comments if you like. Thank you very much. Namaste.